What is popping, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Jeff Poppin. Welcome to my top 10 tips on starting and growing beautiful cities without mods. When starting a city without mods on City Skylines, you should always start with a roundabout. That's because the roundabout is the most basic and easy to build of all distribution systems, and whilst traffic coming off the highway may not seem much when you first start, as the game goes on it will massively increase, and building those roundabouts establish a foundation for your future traffic network. You should always give your first industrial area the priority for exiting the city through the roundabout, and that's because as the game progresses and you start exporting, there's going to be a lot of trucks and you don't want that interfering with residential. You want to minimize that as much as you can. And the way to do that is, if you have right hand drive, put it on the left hand side of the highway entrance onto the roundabout, and if you have left hand drive, put it on the right side of the highway entrance to the roundabout. Don't worry too much about money. It is all about that bailout. Put down what you can afford, even zone some if you want to, but in this early stage it doesn't really matter. Just fast forward, but remember, as soon as that bailout comes, pause it. Congrats, you now have the money to build the rest of what your citizens need to continue growing and your layout. But remember to keep it paused, and after that bailout comes, remember to keep all your budget things low as possible. So that's water, electricity, and as your town grows into a worthy village, then you put down your services buildings as soon as you can. When it comes to layout, it can be quite daunting when you see a patch of uncolonised lands, and it may be tempting to just grid it up. But in my personal opinion, neighbourhoods look a lot better when you use my tried and tested bag and net method. Let me explain. When trying to make beautiful areas in City Skylines, it's always been a massive problem for me because the game itself will only make square buildings. And how does that work when you want to include curves? That's where my patent pending bag and net method comes in. First and foremost, you make a bendy random road, twisting and turning around geographic features where possible, like rivers, forests and hills. Then you make a grid inside it. This is where you zone, the bendy random road being the bag and the grid inside it being the net. When using the bag and net method, to maintain efficiency, make sure that the bag has a high area to perimeter ratio. That sounds complicated and convoluted, but hear me out. It should look like this, not like this, because this shape allows you to build a grid inside it quite easily, whereas if you try to make this shape over and over again, it's not very space efficient at all, because you will not be able to build much of a grid inside these little peninsula thingies. Now that you've zoned your grid, it should look something like this. You'll immediately notice that the outer parts of the grid are completely useless. Or are they? A room is defined by its walls, an area is defined by its outskirts. If it is a predominantly residential area, build parks. If it is an industrial area, this is your chance to get creative. Put up fences, place props, make this area really interesting and really modular. This helps you use the basic vanilla tools that City Skylines provides you with. Same can be said about commercial areas, and heavily commercial areas should be placed between residential areas anyway, so building parks there should benefit residential areas even more so. Building all of these parks will not only make your citizens happy and more taxable, but also will generate a passive income. Ka-ching! On top of that, the bag and net system is good for traffic, because traffic will be pushed outwards towards your heavily propped areas, creating a nice aesthetic and a modular and interesting connected distribution system. Subsidiary roads don't seem necessary when you think about how a citizen will get to work or go shopping, but you don't want to overload the main road. The key to traffic management is giving your citizens options. Now, what is a subsidiary road? A subsidiary road is a road that connects two areas without connecting to a main road, and rarely connecting to multiple areas. That is to say, a subsidiary road is a road between two areas, not 3 or 4 or 5, because it starts to blur the line between subsidiary and main roads. Cool segue, bro. Thanks, bro. The main tip I have with main roads is to build very few connections to them. You build 1 or 2 connections per area, but nothing that would make intersections really close to each other. The most basic principle with main roads is that the mainer a road, the less connections there are to it. The more primary a road is, the more it should be concerned with taking people further distances with less interruptions, taking people from A to Z instead of A to B, as it were. A to B distances should be traversable by subsidiary roads. In regards to services, the first goal of your town should be growth, and that's because your citizens are going to quickly demand garbage services as well as cemeteries, both of which you unlock only later as the game progresses. The cemetery and the crematorium should be treated as a park or part of a park on the outskirts of a residential area, whilst uglier polluting units like incinerators, dumps, coals, and as well as the electricity producers like oil and coal should be placed on the outskirts of industrial areas, along with a lot of props just to make them fit in a bit more. These 2 services should be your priority, but fire departments, police and education facilities should also be placed on these propped up outskirt areas, near subsidiary roads mind you, because none of these should be used to just service one area. Subsidiary roads help these vehicles get from A to B. When it comes to universities though, give universities their own area. Universities are just so fundamentally large that you should give them their own unique area. Oh no, that's a sweet segue. Second time's a charm, bro. It is important to use unique buildings from the drop-down menu to create unique looking areas. If they're massive, give them their own area, but if they're small, try to integrate them as part of the park structure around your residential and commercial areas. This will help to theme and to make your city feel real and dynamic and interesting. It always feels easier to start a new city than to continue an old one. It can be upsetting to work on a city for any length of time, and it can become arduous, and it can feel like you've run out of steam for whatever reason. You want to start again, but once you establish this bag and net routine along with all the other tips in this video, you'll see your city grow, and you'll get the satisfaction of seeing that population spark to 100, 200, 300,000, and it's very cool to see. And as long as you follow the procedures I've laid out, as well as other in-game mechanics such as commercial specialization, zoos, national parks, etc., you will have a low traffic, high population, dynamic, interesting, growing city that it will always be fun to play. Well, those were my top 10 tips on how to best start and grow beautiful cities without mods and city skylines. I hope you found them helpful. If you have any tips of your own, or indeed any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Please like and subscribe and hit that stupid bell thing. I've been Jeff Poppin. Happy simming.